Hey everybody, how you doing out there? Welcome to Midday with Mark. Pastor Mark here. Sorry, I'm a little later than normal. In fact, a lot later than normal, a couple hours later than normal. It's good to be with you. I'm here in the church sanctuary right now. The reason I was late, because maybe you can see right here behind me, we were filming for our service for Sunday. So sorry I'm running late, but that's what kept me today. So hope you're all doing well. How are you out in Corona land? This is Midday with Mark, day 26, I believe. Day 26. So say hi if you're jumping in here. Say hello. Say welcome. Love to hear from you. Glad that you're here. We're not going to have a Christmas tree today since I'm here. And no pop. I don't have that here. No candle. Don't have any of that stuff with me today, but I do have books here. So I did pull a book off our bookshelf here in my office. I pulled a book off. We'll go over that in a minute. Hey, really quick, just want to let you know and thank you again. Today we sent 38 meals to Swickley Hospital. So that went to the COVID wing. It went to the ER. So 38 meals. You all from the River Church, you all made that possible. Thank you. And if you'd like to continue to join us in that, you can visit pushpay.com or the PushPay app. Look for the River Church. Pull the drop-down menu. Hello, Dean. How are you? Pull the drop-down menu and give to Feed the Healers. That's the name of it, Feed the Healers. So love to have you do that. Or outside our doors right here at the church, there are bins. If you'd like to drop off stuff for Light of Life, they need hand sanitizer, toilet paper, toothbrush, toothpaste, all kinds of stuff. So that's also in our weekly email and I believe on our Facebook page too. So check that out. Still need more for that. But glad you're here today. Welcome to the River Church. You're actually in the sanctuary today. And it's good to be coming at you. We're in a series on Nehemiah. Probably just going to be this week, Monday through Friday on Nehemiah, but we're looking at Nehemiah and what Nehemiah did on rebuilding what was broken, and we're going to have to rebuild after all of this is over. We're going to have to rebuild and put everything back together. So that's why I'm looking through Nehemiah. So our book for today, I always grab a book off the shelf at my house, but I'm here too, so I could grab a book. This book is a collection. It's called A Mind Awake. It's an anthology of C.S. Lewis. If you know Mark Helsel, you know that C.S. Lewis is one of his favorites. So this book is an anthology. It's a collection from different books, but it's if you want to pick it up, it's called A Mind Awake, C.S. Lewis. And Lewis wrote in Mere Christianity, this was a little section out of his classic work, Mere Christianity. If you've read Mere Christianity, you know it's an amazing book. If you haven't read it, you should. And it actually was reprinted from radio addresses that he gave during World War II. So London is being bombed mercilessly. I can't say that word. Mercilessly by the Nazis, and Lewis was giving hope and encouragement to people by broadcasting over the radio, and he was doing these series of essays called Mere Christianity. Our world's changed a lot, hasn't it? You don't know if we would do that nowadays, which you hope you would, but Britain was literally broadcasting Mere Christianity. I think there's only a snippet left of the actual audio recordings because I think they were destroyed. But we had the transcripts, which became the book, Mere Christianity. But I think there's a little snippet of the audio that's left. So let me read this to you. And you can tell when you read this that Lewis grew up in a time before Toy Story. All right? So this is what he says. Did you ever think when you were a child what fun it would be if your toys could come to life? So there you go. Woody, Buzz. He lived before Woody and Buzz, all right? Well, suppose you could really have brought them to life. Imagine turning a tin soldier into a real little man. It would involve turning the tin into flesh. And suppose the tin soldier did not like it. He is not interested in flesh. All he sees is that the tin is being spoiled. He thinks you are killing him. He will do everything he can to prevent you. He will not be made into a man if he can help it. What would you have done about that tin soldier? I do not know. But what God did about us was this. The second person in God, the Son, became human himself, was born into the world as an actual man, a real man of a peculiar, or a real man of a particular height, with hair of a particular color, speaking a particular language, weighing so much. The eternal being who knows everything and who created the whole universe became not only a man, but before that a baby, and before that a fetus inside a woman's body. If you want to get the hang of it, think how you would like to become a slug or a crab. The man in Christ rose again, not only the God. That is the whole point. For the first time, we saw a real man. One tin soldier, real tin, just like the rest of us, had come fully and splendidly alive. And we remember that he has risen today. But Lewis was capturing for his audience, listening to it. I love one thing about Lewis. Like, if you didn't know this, Lewis was brought to faith by his friend J.R. Tolkien and a guy named Hugo Dyson, who invested in Tolkien, who was an atheist, and he converted. Lewis did first to deism, where he believed there was a God, and then he converted to Christianity. And he called Christianity the one true myth. It was this mythical story, just like all the other mythical stories that he loved and that Tolkien loved, and other people, the Inklings, they were called, the writers that he hung out with. He called it the one true myth. Jesus was the one true myth. By the way, one of my life bucket lists is to go to England. I've been to England, but go to Oxford, and outside of Oxford there's a little pub named the Eagle and the Child, and to go there and sit where Lewis and Tolkien sat together and created some of the most fascinating stories of the 20th century, and still fascinating people today. So that's our book for today, Mind Awake, C.S. Lewis. Go pick it up. But glad you're here. So let's get to Nehemiah. Nehemiah chapter 2, part 3 of our series. The first day, go back and watch it, but on Monday we talked about how Nehemiah started with a broken heart. He had a broken heart. He looked around him and he saw the way his country was. He saw the way his city of Jerusalem, which I'm pretty sure he'd never even been there, though, which says a lot about Nehemiah. That he has a broken heart over places he's actually never even been. And so he has a broken heart, and he starts with a broken heart, and then he goes to the king, the Babylonian king, which is, he's a wicked king. He's a brutal tyrant. All right, and the king asks him, what is it that he wants? What is it that Nehemiah wants? We get to go to a good king every day, a good king, not a Babylonian king. We can go to prayer every day to God, the king. We can go to him. And what if, I said yesterday, what if he asked you the question, what is it that you want? What is it that you really, really want? Do you want people to come to know Christ? Do you want your family to be whole? Do you want your kids to follow Jesus? Do you want to see people receive justice and mercy? Do you want to work to end injustice? What do you want? Like, what do you want in this world? Do you want to make someone else's life easier? What is it that you want right now in the midst of this pause, this pandemic? What is it that you want? Is it just to go back to the way things were, or do you want to go back to something better? What is it that you want? What is it you want for our country, your family, your church, your individual life? And so Nehemiah asked the king to help to rebuild Jerusalem, and the king gave him permission to do that. And so he goes through, he gets a bunch of things that he needs, and then he sets out for Jerusalem. And by the way, before he goes, I want you to hear this. In chapter 2, verse 10, it says, when Sanballat the Hornite and Tobiah the Ammonite, and there'll be a guy named Geshem who shows up a little bit, when they heard about what Nehemiah was going to do, They were very much disturbed that someone had come to promote the welfare of the Israelites. So here's the thing. Whenever you set out to do something good, and whenever you set out to do something for God, whenever you set out to rebuild, there will always be, and you got to get this, there will always be opposition. There will always be people who come against you and tell you that's crazy. Why would you ever do that? Why would you promote the welfare of these people? Why would you think you could rebuild that? Who do you think you are? Why do you think you need to get involved here? And listen, if it's from God, there's always going to be opposition. I mean, John wrote this in his gospel, right? That the light comes into the darkness, and men love darkness. And he says the light comes into the darkness, and the darkness does everything it can to snuff out the light, but it won't. The darkness cannot win. The light cannot be snuffed out. The light cannot be overcome by the darkness. And so there will always be opposition, though. And some of the opposition is going to come from very well-meaning people. I can think of, like when I decided to go into ministry, God called me to ministry, like my parents could have been in opposition. They could have said like, whoa, wait a minute, you're halfway through college. Why would you switch? But I remember my dad saying to me, "Is God really called you to do this?" And I looked at him and I said, "Yes, he has." And my dad said, "Well, you better go do that." And so he didn't stand in the way. He actually encouraged me. But there might be even well-meaning people who think you're kind of crazy. I'm sure there are people in Nehemiah's family who went, "Come on, buddy, you got to calm down." Like, what? No. Like, you mean you're going to go do this? Yeah, this is what God's called me to do. My heart is broken, and I need to change the way it is for my fellow Israelites. All right, so let's go on. So then Nehemiah leaves. All right, and I titled this message today, Wild, Wild West, because this part reminds me, I don't know, just kind of Wild, Wild West. I don't know why I made the horses in it, but it says this in verse 11 of chapter 2. "I went to Jerusalem, and after staying there 3 days, I set out during the night with a few others." So he sets out during the night. All right, it's like a night mission. "I had not told anyone what my God had put in my heart to do for Jerusalem." Nobody knows why he's there. All right. "There were no mounts with me except the one I was riding on." So Nehemiah, get this picture. He's at night. He's on a horse. All right. Like he's with a group of people. Okay. Then it says, "By night I went out through the valley gate." These are all different gates that he goes around the walls. And the walls are broken down, so the gates are probably smashed and open, but you can still see where the gate is. You can go there today, and actually one of these gates, the Dung Gate, I actually went through this gate when I was in Israel a couple months ago. He says, "I went through the valley gate toward the Jackal Well and the Dung Gate," there it is, "examining the walls of Jerusalem, which have been broken down, and its gates, which have been destroyed by fire." Remember, walls and gates represent protection and pride. Protection and pride. It's like our bridges here in Pittsburgh, all right? Our stadiums, our Permanis, I don't know. So, but it's our protection and pride had been broken down, okay? Then he says, "Then I moved on towards the fountain gate and the king's pool, but there was not enough room for my mount to get through." So things are destroyed. "So I went up to the valley by night, examining the wall, and finally I turned back and re-entered through the valley gate. The officials did not know where I had gone or what I was doing, because as yet I had said nothing to the Jews or to the priests or to the nobles or the officials or any others who would be doing the work." And so he goes out and does an inspection, but he hasn't told anybody what the heck he's doing there. Then he addresses these people. And he says, "Then I said to them, 'You see the trouble we are in.'" Now notice the pronoun. Now wait, you have to get something too. These people have been sitting in this rubble probably for a long time. Okay? They're sitting in this rubble for a long time. But he says to them, look, Nehemiah started with a broken heart. But now with that broken heart, it's got to get transferred to others. And so he says, do you see the trouble we are in? I mean, they could say, yeah, we've been here, buddy. You just got here. But he's trying to get them to see it. They have done nothing about it. But he's saying, look, do you see the trouble we are in? Jerusalem lies in ruins, and its gates have been burned with fire. Come, let us rebuild. It's going to take all of us. Like, it's going to take all of you. Like, everybody watching this, it's going to take all of us to rebuild. And not just to rebuild for yourself, but it's going to take all of us. All of us have to look at where we are and say, this is a disgrace. Like, we can't stay here. We have got to rebuild. We have got to move on. And so he says, let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem, and we will no longer be in disgrace. I also told them about the gracious hand of my God on me and what the king had said to me. And they replied, let us start rebuilding. Love it. I see this like moment where everybody's just like, yeah, let's start rebuilding. It's like a Braveheart moment to me. This is kind of a Braveheart. No, they'll never take our freedom, right? Moment. And he's like, we can't be in disgrace anymore. We can't stay here. If one of us is in disgrace, all of us is in disgrace. We need to rebuild. And they're like, yes, let's rebuild. And then it says, so they began this good work. What are you going to rebuild after all this is over? What do we need to rebuild? What are you going to rebuild with your church? Like, how are you going to get involved in your church? It's time. The days of playing church are over. They ended. What are you going to help rebuild? What will you help rebuild? The days of sitting in church and playing church are over. Nehemiah says to them, look at the disgrace that we are in. Let's rebuild. Let's begin this good work. What good work will you commit yourself to in your family, in your community, in your nation, in your world, in your church? What good work will you commit yourself to? And they began it. They began this good work. Now, I got to end chapter 2 with the way it almost began today. And it says this, when Sanballat, there they are, the three stooges are back. When Sanballat the Hornite, Tobiah the Ammonite, and Geshem the Arab heard about this, they mocked and ridiculed us. And so when you start something good, when you set out to change things, when you set out to move things from where they are to where they need to be, guess what? What's going to happen? What's going to happen is you're going to end up with opposition. I don't know what the pointing finger, was I pointing at you? I'm pointing at me too. Pointing at you, pointing at me. Dean said the pointing finger. I don't know. Pointing at me, pointing at you. This is all of us, talking to all of us, me too. But the opposition comes immediately whenever you try to do something good. That's when the opposition will come. And they mocked Nehemiah and his people, and they ridiculed them. And he says, are you rebelling against the king? Well, no, actually, the king sent me. All right? So that one's shot down right away. Then they said, I answered them by saying, the God of heaven will give us success. We are his servants. We will start rebuilding. But as for you, you have no share in Jerusalem or any claim or historic right to it. And so Nehemiah shoots them down and says, hey, look, like you don't have any claim in what we're doing. You're not going to have any share in what we're doing because you chose to go against this good work. And so expect when you set out to do anything good, expect opposition. This is the Wild West. It's the wild, wild west. Nehemiah's on a horse, riding around the city, calling the people to action. It's a Braveheart moment, right? Calling them to action. Are you ready to fight or not fight? And when you're ready to fight, the opposition comes. Whatever in your life, whatever you need to rebuild. Like if you need to rebuild yourself spiritually, guess what's going to happen? When you set out to rebuild yourself spiritually, there will be opposition that comes against you. When you set out to look at your family's schedule or whatever after this and say, hey, we're not doing this anymore, there's going to be opposition. There's always opposition, but there is a path that God has called us to. That's my word for you today. Thanks for joining me here on Midday with Mark. Glad you're with me. Come back tomorrow on Thursday, and I would love to have you come back and check it out. It should be right around noon tomorrow. I'll see you then. Tonight, River Church will be online, all church gathering. 7 o'clock, we have some fun together. We pray together. We hear about each other's week. Just come on and hang out with us for a little bit. 7 o'clock tonight. Look on our Facebook page. Look on my Facebook page. You can see how to click into that. And we'll see you tonight. All right? Miss you guys. Love you. Be safe. Be wise. Faith over fear. Hang in there. We're getting to the end of the first part of this. Who knows? Take care. Bye-bye.